Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm going to be using the Diamond and Arch motif stamp and die of the month from Spellbinders to make some pretty cards. So I'm starting off with my Misty, and I've already got my paper in and I've positioned my stamp, and I'm thinking this stamp would be great for doing some mass production flat cards, so that's what I'm going to start off with. I'm going to use some of the Color Hide inks from Maker Forte. I've been trying these out lately, and I'm starting off with Blueberry Cheesecake. So let me go ahead and just add some ink down. I don't know how well this is going to stamp because this is a brand new stamp, and this is the very first stamping of this. So that is pretty. It is a very light color. I'm going to go over it a couple of times, see if I can darken that up a little bit. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stamp out a couple more of these. I've got some other colors, and I'm going to do some different ones. So I'm going to use some English mustard. That might be too light on white, but I'm not sure. And then I've got some blue raspberry and some telephone box. So let's start off with the red. And I'm thinking it would probably be pretty cool to use some water-based markers on here too. That way you could color just the sections you want to and leave the rest of it clear, or just mix up what colors. Okay, this red is very, very juicy. I can see it beating up already on the stamp, so let's take a look at that. One stamping is all I need for that one. That is gorgeous. So another piece of cardstock, and then I'm going to do some with the blue raspberry. So if I wanted a darker blue, I probably, out of what I have in my stash anyway, I would probably use one of my Tim Holtz inks or my Catherine Pooler suede shoes, which I absolutely love. Ooh, this one almost matches my watch. Love it. It's about right, but I'm going to put down one more layer of ink anyway. Okay, that is lovely. Love, love, love it. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp out some of the sentiments. So I'm actually using a piece of scrap that I've got in my bin, and I'm going to use that as my template. And I've already got all of the little sentiment dies taped down, and then I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine. As always, I'm using my Magic Mat, which has definitely saved the life of my plates. My plates do not get warped nearly as quickly as they did before. And I haven't had to replace any, which is really, really cool. And I've been using the Magic Mat for almost 2 years. So I'm going to go ahead and pop all of these off. So I've got a first sentiment, so I can stamp one of each of these. So I've got a first one, but now I've got a little template. So it's going to be easier to make sure that my stamps are perfectly lined up every single time I stamp. Okay, so now I've got all of my pieces there. I think what I'm also going to do, I'm going to do this just on the paper here because I'm not really that concerned at this point about everything staying in place. I am going to line this all the way up with the edge. Then I can put each of my little stamps in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp it onto the back to make sure everything is completely lined up the way that I want it to before I start stamping onto my little die cuts. Usually with a lot of stamps, all you need to do is just kind of get them in there with where the die is to get them lined up right. But it really depends on how close the stamp and die are together. You know, how close the die is supposed to cut as to whether or not it's going to be perfect or not. Okay. So we've got the stamps on there. This is just going to go down to where all of my images are supposed to be lined up, right? Do a second one right there, and then I can put my template down and see if they are all lined up like I expect. And I'd say that they are really, really, really close. So I'm going to go with it. The only one that looks like it's a little tiny touch off is the Sending Love right there. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it just enough so that it is a little further up inside that space. My problem is that they are sticky. And they'll keep wanting to stick to my nails. Okay. And I think that is about right. So I'm going to pick it back up. I'm going to try it one more time. And see if it goes just a little bit up. Just on that one stamp. Okay, it did go a little bit up, so that is good. And then let's see. Now I think it's pretty much perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my die cuts into each of those spots. But I want my sticky grid to make sure nothing moves around. I can still see through it, which is cool. Okay, so put that down, and then I'm going to pop all of these little die cuts in that I just did. Okay, so now everything is right in place where I want it, right? Okay, so for each of these, I could do different colors, but I think for this first set of cards, I'm just going to do them all in black. And since I already have the Tuxedo Momenta Tuxedo Black ink out, I'm going to just use it. I do have black words on all of them. You could do like a tone-on-tone and have everything be matchy-matchy if you want. But I think I'm only going to do one set of the sentiments right now, but I'm already set up to be able to do lots more. All I have to do is stamp out some more of the, die cut out more of the sentiments, put everything back in place like I just did, and I've got a ton of sentiments, pretty scripty sentiments to use on my cards. Okay, so let's take a look at the finished result on that. Okay, so this one says sending love. And I think that that would be pretty. So next I'm going to do a little bit extra on my cards. I do need to trim those down, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of additional color to them as well. So I've kind of decided I want to do something a little bit different. Of course, I'm always trying some new technique or something that I haven't used that much. I've got a second panel of this A2 size, so they're both the same size. I'm going to position this over my initial piece there. So I put the tape on the back, and I'm lining up my cardstock, my image on top. Now I'm going to line up my die right over it, and then bring the tape down onto card there. Okay. And now I should be able to detach the one with the image and place my die right in the center where I want it. Now, this is an experiment, and all I will have wasted is a piece of cardstock if it doesn't work. So let's give it a shot. And to be honest, I don't think that it would waste any of it because I always trim off the edges anyway. So that means that I can always reposition that background piece. Okay. And if this worked the way I expect it to, this will be my template so I can cut some more because I'm going to want to do some additional layers. Okay, let's try positioning it right over, and it's perfect. So what I'm doing is I'm taping two pieces of cardstock together. We've got our template, which is the one on top, and another piece underneath. And then I'm going to put my die right in all of the grooves from that die cut, and it just kind of fits in just like a puzzle piece. And now I'm going to tape that down onto my cardstock. I'm going to run it through like that. Now it may or may not go through all the way, but what it will do regardless is it's going to cut at least an imprint into the bottom piece of cardstock so that if it doesn't go all the way through, I've got something to start off with, right? So I'll go ahead and run that one through, and we will take a look. And it looks like it cut through at least part of the way. Okay, I'm going to take off my template. Now let's take a look at this. So it's coming through part of the way, but you can see we've got all of the imprints there. So now all I need to do, so now I can just pop this one into those grooves my tape will let me do that. And it fits right in there, gets right snug in there, and then tape it back down and run it back through my die cutting machine, and now I've got a second layer. And they line up perfectly. For the sentiments, I decided to do kind of the same thing as what I'm thinking on one of my cards, and that is layer up some of the die cuts. I'm layering up 4 of each of the die cuts. I've got 3 white pieces and then of course the stamped piece. I'm just layering those up, and it gives a real solid, almost chipboard sentiment kind of feel to it. And I think these are going to turn out really nice on my cards. Also trying to decide what to do extra on each of the cards. On this first one, this really pretty pastel-y purple is, in my mind, almost too light. So I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with it. Let me go ahead and finish up these last couple of sentiments. Like I said, I am layering up 4 layers. So here's one of those. And it's big enough that you can see it against that purple, which is nice. So that may be a good option for it. I'm also kind of wanting to add a little bit of, some shimmer to it. So I've got out my shimmer pen and some distress inks that I think are going to match pretty decently. And I think I'm going to start off with just adding a little bit to the center of the flower. It's going to give it a little bit of a different look compared to the others. Just coming straight out from the center. But it is going to add a little bit of extra darker purple to my card. And since I'm using a shimmer pen to paint this on, it's going to also add that little bit of shine to the center too. Okay, and now I'm going to kind of brush off some of that extra ink and add a little bit of color to this outer layer of this flower. This one is just going to deepen up the color that is already stamped down. It's not going to add any color to it because this is, of course, a clear pen here. And it may dry back some, but I think it's still going to be pretty because it's going to be adding in that little bit of shimmer. So I finished adding a bunch of that shimmer and some additional color in a few different areas, and then I decided I wanted to add a little bit more. For this one, I'm going to use those additional layers, and I went ahead and embossed with the embossing folder of the month, Fan Motif. It is kind of a busy embossing folder, but I think it is going to turn out really pretty. I'm going to layer all of these panels up, lined up with that die cut shape, and then layer it over the top. You probably saw that I did a similar design on a Christmas card not too long ago. I think this one was on a live stream that I did using a new Steinman Hurley die. I'll leave a link down below. That one turned out so gorgeous, and I love this kind of, instead of popped up, it's kind of a recessed look. So I'm going to try that again on this one. And one reason why I want to do some extra on it is, again, because that is kind of such a pastel, and I want the card to still pop, even though the color isn't all that vibrant. So now I've got my overlay in place. Now I'm going to just add some adhesive to the back of this. And then I can put this right over my image. Okay, so now our image is laid back. You've got that little bit of dimension, and I think that that is going to be so pretty. So I will be right back after I get that trimmed down. So after I trimmed that down, I decided that instead of having it this way, I really like it this way. I like having that flower up in the upper corner. You could, of course, do it the opposite. Both, I think, would be gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and put this down onto an A2 size card base. And the liquid glue is going to give me a little bit of wiggle room so I can get that perfectly placed right where I want it. So I'm going to have that little ledge of white all the way around. I think that is lovely. And then looking at the sentiments, so this one says sending love, so I could place that there and it would look fantastic. I'm not going to add a sentiment to the card at the moment though, because I want to do these as kind of as a set of cards and have it so that the recipient of the cards will be able to send them out. So this is kind of as a gift. For the next card, I decided to cut out that pretty image, and I'm using the middle pieces from those panels that I cut out for the other, and I'm layering those up. So I've got 3 panels here, and then I'm going to layer my blue flowers up as my 4th. Now you can go back and use some markers or shimmer pen or whatever to liven up the image like I did on the first if you want, but this time I think I'm just going to go with another embossed panel. This one is going to be in a light blue. I think those are going to look really nice together, and this one is using I think it was the intertwined lattice that came out a couple of months ago. Oh, and I think this time I want to use, yes, I think I'm going to use the debossed side as the one going out. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back. So I'm putting my adhesive on the raised edges part because I want the design to be imprinted into the cardstock on the front. I think that'll look pretty cool. So I'll go ahead and put that one down, leaving that little border around the edges. Okay, and now I can put some adhesive on the back of my main center focal image and put that onto the front. Again, with the flower up in the upper right hand corner because I think that is lovely. And just like I did on the first, let's take a look and see what this would look like with one of these sentiments. Now the sentiment is also raised, so we've got a couple of layers of dimension there, and I think that would be really lovely. It would be super easy for the card recipients, the gift card box, the set, to be able to just add that sentiment down with just a little bit of glue and send this out to one of their buddies. So there's 2 cards done. For this last one, I think this red is just so vibrant and I love it. I think that one would look perfect just flat on a card base. So let me grab out one more card base. First, I need to trim this panel down a little bit too because I do like that little bit of white around the edges. And I'm not going to be able to position this one again. It looks to me like this side might be a little bit smaller, so I'm going to start with that one and just trim it down a little bit. What I want it to do is come down to 5 1/4, but I don't need it to do that yet. This side I think I want to have it come down a little bit further than the other. And go ahead, and since I want to make sure everything is square, I can start trimming this down top and bottom too. Still trying to keep that image basically in the center. I mean, if it's a little bit off, it's not going to be a big deal. Nobody else is going to notice but me. And for this one, since I don't have any other dimension going on, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back. That's going to add that little bit of dimension that is always so nice on my cards. And you could just do this one as a flat card. You don't really have to add all the rest. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue to the back to give me a little bit of wiggle room there. Okay, and then of course you could always add a sentiment on the front there. So as an afterthought, because I never remember to do this, I think what I want to do is to right there. I want to add a little bit of something on the inside of the card. So I'm taking the other stamp. Let me just make sure I've got this in place right. So it's to that grid mark. That's another good reason to have grids, if at all possible, inside your card. I mean, inside your MISTI, so that you can make sure that you have everything placed exactly where you want it. Let's take a look and see if I've got it lined up right. Yes. I want to have a little bit of that image peeking through, and I think I actually want a little bit more of it. So let's slide it over just a little bit, go over 1/4 inch. Let's see how that looks. I think that'll be pretty. And I'm just going to do that on the inside of each of my cards using the color that I stamped on the outside. So this one needs to be the blueberry cheesecake. Oh, that is nice. I'm all kind of tempted to do it on the other side too, on the other edge, but let's go ahead and do all... Actually, I am going to do that, I think. I'm going to leave it as is for a moment and do the other two with the stamp positioned here, and then I might move it over. First, I need to clean off that stamp. And this time, since we're going with the blue, this one is going to be the blue raspberry color hide ink. Oh, that is pretty. I like that. That telephone box, I am loving that color. Awesomeness. Okay, so if I'm going to do it on the other side, what I need to do now is go ahead and put one of my cards in. And again, using my magnets to hold it down. Then I need to reposition my stamp. But I want to make sure I don't mess up any of the stuff that I've already done. So I'm going to take the acetate from my stamp set, put that down over my card, and then I can place this down. So do I want to do the flower on the inside or the leaves? I think I'm going to go with the flowers just like I did before. And I had just a little bit of the other side of that diamond, because this is the diamond one, which is very pretty. I'm trying to make sure I keep the end of my ruler flush up against the edge of the Misty. Okay. Now I can put this in place and have it just barely touching up at the top. There we go. So this should be about the right positioning height-wise, and I just need to make sure it is where I want it horizontally, and there we go. Now I pick it up and I can add some of that blue raspberry down. And nobody else is going to know if this is exactly where I wanted it or not. It's going to be perfect regardless. Okay, so there we go. So that one is done. That looks kind of cool. And it looks like I missed a little bit right there. So I'm going to clean off the stamp and stamp it back down, because it looks like there must have been something on the stamp, because there is a bit that was missed. Okay. There we go. So now that one looks perfect. So I think those turned out just lovely. You guys be sure to check out this playlist to see some more projects where I'm using Spellbinders products. And remember, if I can make this, you can too. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.